Welcome back to another elf discussion. Today we're going to talk about Windrider Host because Marcus here is going to be taking it to a GT in a week. So,
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
yeah, Marcus and I are going. We are actually teammates, so I won't have to face this round one at least. Arthur is sitting this one out, but we're gonna have a local GT in a month, and so at some point we'll talk about your list that you maybe craft for that one. But for now, Windrider Host. All right, so for those of you who are not familiar, this is an uppy downy one. You can uppy downy 2 units at 2,000 points of either Asuryani mounted, not Aeldari mounted. So only the Craft World bikes or Vipers. And they can also come in a turn early out of reserves, and that is pretty nifty for
Yeah,
reasons
the
that
rapid ingress plays are fun.
yeah. I know it's the good version of it too, because there's some where it's like in your strategic, in your reserves phase, you can come in like turn one, which does not allow for the rapid ingress. This just says treat it as one turn higher, which means you can rapid ingress.
Yeah, and technically you could also tie that in. I mean, it's super specific, but the mission that lets battle line rapid ingress turn one.
Yeah, I mean, well, because it's one thing I didn't put on the slide here, but yes, technically, the bikes are battle line. Not all bikes, sorry, the Windrider bikes are battle line, and there are a few missions where, like stalwarts, where you can shoot in action, and that certainly is nifty if you are because often you're not taking battle line, but in this detachment, you are taking battle line.
That's
You're
most
taking
of
a
what you're
lot of it.
taking.
Yeah, you're taking a lot of it because it really the Windrider bikes are generically good. I think that they have play in like almost any detachment just because they get their hit rerolls with lethal hits and easy access to ignores cover. But obviously,
Huh?
they're
Even running the scatter laser is really good.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you really need something to clear chaff, they'll do it. They'll do it.
You know,
So either way, though, there's some that you're getting on a hit, a critical hit with reroll hits. So it's very reliable for whatever you're trying to do.
yeah.
Anyway, so let's get into these enhancements. You got one first drawn blade, 10 points. The unit scouts 9 inches. And now I think a thing that should be pointed out is that there are fewer, all of these can only go on mounted characters, and there are fewer of those than there were before. One of them is just gone completely, the Autarch on bike. And then the other got changed into not a character, which is the Warlock on bike, which is kind of good. But also it means that like all of these are basically just going on Farseers, right? That's
First
the
period.
that's the
Yeah.
only one,
Yep,
right?
the only mounted character in the book.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of is a draw, like a drawback for all of these because they're not great Farseers.
Yeah, this this detachment I think was written with the idea that the Autarch on bike would still exist,
Or,
and it
or at least the
doesn't.
Warlocks, right? I mean, because I could totally see putting some of these on Warlock just cause, but uh,
Maybe, but I think it was within. They still had in mind that the Autarch on bike would still exist.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But they don't. So Farseer it
Yep,
is. All right,
that's just how it is.
it is. So the next one, Mirage Field, 25 points, -1 to hit for the Bears unit. I mean, -1 to hit in melee and shooting is fine. 25 points is probably too much. Seer Sight Strike, 15 points. The bearer psychic weapons get anti-monster, anti-vehicle 2 up, which is hilarious. And then Echoes of Ulthanesh, 20 points to generate CP on a 5 up, or 4 up if the bearer is outside the DZ, or 3 up if the bearer is in the opponent's DZ. I mean, I think,
Eh,
yeah, there's only one you're going to take, and it's the one that Marcus took.
Which one was it? The scout?
No, the Seer.
The
The psychic power.
anti-vehicle monster.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's the only one that looks even reasonably good.
yeah. It's also, I mean, I think 15 points is the max that I'd be willing to pay for it. I don't, because
Absolutely.
their psychic weapon is not great. It's fine.
But notably, the singing spear is also a psychic weapon.
It is, but it's also AP 0, so
Yeah, but
What
you
does it
you
matter
can
if you're
buff up the AP.
You can buff up the AP, and you will be ignoring cover. So, like, yes, you can get it to AP -2. This is a thing that can happen. But
Yes.
anyway, we'll get there. All right, next the strats, which is one of these AP things that we were just talking about. They're all 1 CP. Uh, Bikes for almost all of them, and then and Viper. There's only one that is only bikes. So I'll just start with that one. The one that is only bikes, not Viper, is the funny one, which is you pay a CP and you can move 7 inches after destroying a unit, shooting or melee. Uh, that's
Which is that one?
that's the overflight one. That's the one that
Oh, okay.
got Marcus interested in the detachment originally, I think.
Yes. Important note: there is no charge restriction in this strat,
Right.
so
There.
you can move 7 in your shooting phase and still charge.
Yep. And that is what makes it supremely good. I mean,
Because you can deep strike and then do that.
you can deep strike and then do this. You could 6-inch deep strike and do
You could
this.
6-inch deep strike, but can you charge out of the 6-inch?
Oh, that's
No.
true. If you do the 6-inch, then that does have a restriction.
Still, if you
you
deep strike out of 9 and you move 7, a 3-inch charge is
yeah. I mean, there still might
push.
be a reason why you would want to do this on a 6-inch, like if that's the only way that you could get enough guns in line to see. And
Well, it would
then
be after after you shot, isn't it?
it's after you
And after
shot.
you've destroyed a unit.
But that's what I'm saying. So like, let's say if you do a 9-inch deep strike, you're only getting say 3 out of 6 Windriders in sight, within line of, or getting line of sight, and therefore you're probably not killing the thing that you're shooting at. Whereas if you do the 6-inch, and your goal is not to charge with the Windriders, your goal is maybe to just steal a point. So
Oh, okay.
you could do the 6-inch so that you can get the line of sight on all of them. I mean, it's a niche thing. It might come
Yeah.
up, but anyway,
Yeah.
you can do it. And also because it is applicable in the shooting or the melee phase, you can do it twice in a turn if you have a double threat like Shining Spears. And so,
Oh yeah, that's a lot of extra movement.
yeah, what was
Yeah,
it?
and another thing you can do with it, it happens like immediately after you kill something. So if you have the token for the 6-inch consolidate, you kill something in melee, spend the strat, move 7, then consolidate 6.
Yep. So, what did you figure like a reasonable amount of movement if you like linked it all together for Shining Spears was like 50 inches?
Oh yeah. So they move 14 base.
Yep.
You add 2 for a token.
Yep.
You advance because you can advance
Yeah.
one of the other strats.
The next strat,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, shoot something, move 7, charge something for 12, do the 6-inch pal and consolidate, and you kill something, and then do the 7, then the consolidate. So it just you could pretty much cross the entire board from one edge to the other.
I think that yeah,
That's
if you're
gross.
getting if it's I mean, because if you're doing the advance, then you don't even need like a 12-inch charge to get to the 50 inches. So it's bonkers though. I mean, the chances that you are shooting something and to death with, if it's trash, I suppose it's possible with the spears, but it's just theoretically possible, which is hilarious. I mean, it is.
It
It's
funny number.
Yeah, it's like what is the max damage that fire dragons can do, like 200 something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's theoretically possible. This is a lot more plausible than that, though, because you don't have to roll all 6s for this. You just have to,
No,
get.
but the wild thing with something like this is you could land in your opponent's backfield, shoot, move, charge, move, and then be safely back in yours, depending on where you land.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So, very good strat. The next one we already talked about, which is that the advance and fallback shoot and charge. So it's the full package. I mean, that's just good for anybody. Um,
Did we
It's
talk about the first one?
wonderful.
We skipped the first one. I'm going to get to it. I just was wanting to talk about the 7-inch one because that's, I think, the best one. Yeah.
By far.
I mean, the Shining Spears, basically, I don't know how often you're going to be falling back because if you're stuck, unless you're stuck into a rhino, like you're probably just dead.
Yeah, you're elves.
Or you whiff into a into a wave serpent.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's got to be something that just like bumps you and has no actual attacks, but otherwise, yeah, you're just. I mean, the shining spears are basically just space marines, so you know. But definitely the advancing and shooting and charging is great. So yeah, the one that I skipped is not one worth skipping really. It's a 1 CP to reroll wounds out of reserves, shooting or melee. I mean, most likely shooting, unless you do your whole thing of you've moved 7 inches after shooting. Then I suppose you could reliably charge the turn you came out of reserves. But yeah, so no, I'll let Marcus get to the wombo combos of all this stuff. But I mean, if you're already they exist. And we talked about the 6-inch deep strike. Another really simple but solid one is 1 CP improve AP by 1 in shooting. I didn't leave it. It's not in the slide, but it is just in shooting. Again, I guess the Shining Spears might like extra AP in melee, but it's not like the Windriders need it. And then the last one is a useful durability one because we are talking about elves here. So the Bikes or Viper can get a 4-up invul in shooting, and that can make the difference sometimes because sometimes you just only roll 4-ups and then you're fine.
So I would like to note for the 6-inch deep strike, your normal reserves is coming in from the table edge. This lets you come in anywhere.
Yes.
And it's only no charging if you come within 9. So you can still do 1 CP to effectively normal deep strike 9
Yes.
and still be able to charge if you have the shining spears and you want to do the shoot, move, and then charge.
That is a very
if you
good
have the
point.
CP for it.
That is a very good point because I think this is like the only strat like this. I mean, all the other strats don't give you the option of being able to charge if you come outside of 9. Like I know the Hypercrypt one does not do that, and so I think that is because of the fact that Shining Spears might really actually want to go for a charge out of Deep Strike. That's a really nice feature. So, all right. Do you want to talk about some of the wombo combos, or should we get to your list and then you can talk about them?
I can talk about them in the list because
Yeah, that's where you'll see it.
I've got the units to set it up.
Yep. Okay. And this is definitely like the wombo combo detachment. You can just stack so many buffs. It's nuts.
Yeah, you can tailor your damage on the fly, and I love it, and I will misgauge it every other action.
Yes. So starting off, your Warlord is a Farseer Skyrunner with the Seer Sight, so with the 2-up, anti-monster, anti-vehicle. You got Azerman, and he'll be going with his 5 Dire Avengers and a Falcon with the Scatter Laser. You have 2x6 Windriders with cannons, and then 3 units of 3 with cannons. No, I guess you decided that Azerman was enough for clearing chaff. I guess you got Shroud Runners too, so yeah.
Yeah.
So you got the 2x5 Rangers, 1 unit of 6 Shining Spears. The Exarch obviously has the Star Lance, 2 units of 3 Shroud Runners, 1 Viper with a Bright Lance, 2 War Walkers with Bright Lances, 1 unit of 2 Warlock Skyrunners, and a single Warlock Skyrunner. So if I were to guess, I would think that the Farseer and the unit of 2 Warlock Skyrunners are going with one of the bricks of 6 Windriders.
Yeah. So one of the bricks gets 3 Psychers because the Warlock's
They buff
Psychic
each other.
Flamer gets better the more Psychers there are.
Yep.
So you just have one brick that hits super hard, and then the other just has the Ignores cover, which is like still very good and is good into a lot of targets. But just being able to just send a metric ton of damage with that one unit, with like all the combos you can do to buff up the damage, is quite nice.
So yeah, well, why don't you? Let's say you were facing something like my Tesseract Vault, which it's 24 wounds of T12, 2 up, 4 up, and it's going to have a 6 up feel no pain, and you just had to pull out all the stops to make sure it was dead. What can you do to get it to the max?
Yeah, so the 4-up invul does make it a bit sad because like several of the things are just adding extra AP. Like the War Walkers and a strat can both add 1 AP, so you
Mm-hmm.
can get to like AP 3 on your shuriken cannons, ignoring cover natively just from having the Warlocks, or from having the Shroud Runner shoot something in case you want to take saves on the Warlocks, because they aren't characters anymore, so you can take saves on them.
Right, and they have invuls.
Um, yeah. And they're 3 wounds, so it can be like awkward for some things to kill them. Um, but yeah, you can get full rerolls to hit and wound with their lethal hits and like strength 6, so they're wounding most things on 5s or better. Um, and the full rerolls to wound is just amazing for that. The Seer Sight Strike on the Farseer, especially against monsters and vehicles, wounding on 2s,
Mm-hmm.
rerolling. Um, and the uh, 3 Singing Spears, which you can get up to AP 2 for flat 3 damage. Like, and just the 18 Shuriken Cannon shots at potentially AP 3 ignores cover, full rerolls with lethal hits. And then the like random trash shuriken catapults from the other bikes.
Yeah,
And then of course the 2d6 plus 4 strength 7 up to AP 3 damage flamers.
It hurts.
yeah. I mean,
Yep.
that's the thing is. I mean, if you are, getting the War Walkers, there's every chance that the War Walkers have already, sunk a Brightland shot. I mean, which is like D6 plus 2 damage already.
Yeah, and like they can just randomly go, "Oh, I did 8 damage with 1 bright lance." Though I have considered changing them to 1 bright lance, 1 scatter laser, just
Mm-hmm.
because
To get the
like in my
AP.
last game, I had 3 out of 4 activations with War Walkers miss both shots, and that can just
I
happen.
I think that is not a bad idea, um, because you also kind of don't necessarily need them to be the ones doing the damage if what you're doing is buffing your brick that is about to just delete almost everything. I mean, have you done the math hammer on, like, okay, let's say it's a something really ludicrously tough, like a 2 up 4 up with a 6 up feel no pain and 24 wounds and T12. I mean, do you know? I don't think it's fire discipline eradicators level of nutso, but I mean,
Nothing is.
yeah,
Yeah,
nothing,
it
nothing.
won't like one shot that unless the dice are really wacky, but
Sure, you can always
it
fail
should
4
chunk
ups.
through a bunch of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do then? I mean, okay, let's say you and I get paired, and you're faced with that. I mean, what is if you, are you relying on the overflight to pull that unit to safety somehow, or I mean, do you have some ways to? I mean, are you lining up like multiple hits on a heavy thing? I mean, what's your plan?
If there's something that I can't expect like one of the big scary biker bricks to one shot, I think just line up as many things as you can and try and set it up so that the most important of the bricks will get the overflight, because you can like activate things in sequence and be like, all right, this dropped it to half. I'll
Mm-hmm.
throw a bit of more trash so it drops it a bit lower, and then I do the thing I want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's just so much trash in this list that you
Yeah.
can gauge the firepower with that pretty reasonably.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot of trash. It'll wear you down.
yeah,
Especially if you're not running MSU or you're not running high bodies. High body count, it'll wear you down.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the uppy downy and the coming in from every angle. It is rough.
Yeah, I mean and the thing about it is, like, while Windriders do die, I mean, they're 2 wounds each, which makes a huge difference for elves. I mean, like, okay, because most Overwatches, nobody's running. I mean, very few people are running Land Raider Redeemers anymore. I think I actually did see somebody with one in a Vanguard Ultramarines list of all things. I mean, I don't know what it's doing there, but regardless,
It's living its best life. That's what
yeah.
Living the dream.
Yeah, but outside of like, the ball predators and redeemers, like most real Overwatch threats are, damage 1. And so you can turn off one
Flame.
Overwatch. Yeah. So I don't think that even like you have to worry a ton about Overwatch with this.
Well, you do have to remember that they are T4.
Our T4.
Yeah, and only 4 up armor, so they do die pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But the hope is that with all the movement shenanigans you have and the ability to just start half your army on reserve and bring it in turn 1 if you want,
Mm-hmm.
like you'll be getting the first drop most of the time.
Yeah.
And if not, then you're hopefully getting dropped on only your least important units, like your 3-mans that you're putting out to kill trash and all that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know how I would play against this. I mean, it's
Screen it out.
yeah.
Try to screen it
You
out.
try and screen it out. I mean, that is one important caveat about the Windriders, which is that they it's model by model on like getting rerolls against the closest target. Now, so it is possible to make sure that theoretically, like assuming that Marcus is not committing, I mean, because you could put something in front of the thing that you don't want him to kill, but he could also find ways to kill that thing first, and then by the time the big brick activates, the thing that he wants to kill is the closest. So there's always that.
Well, there's also I put the thing in front, and then, oh, they dropped behind me or from a different angle.
Right.
'Cause uppy downy means nothing's where it looks like it is.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there's some times where it's just like if you're just in a corner, you can just, ring around the rose. Yeah. And I have definitely had to do that before, like versus, some melee armies where I'm just like, you know what I'm gonna do? I know the thing that you really want to kill is the Silent King, so I'm just gonna put planes in a circle around him so that you literally can't get to him no matter what you do.
I mean, the other thing with the Windriders is they're on like what is it, 28mm bases?
No, they're 32s.
They're on the little flight stands.
They're 32s.
But they reroll hits of 1 all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
They do reroll hits of 1 all the time. And I mean, that's the other thing. Because they reroll hits, against the closest eligible, that's a pretty darn good Overwatch too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially like the Death Star squad with the 2 flamers that have 1,000,000 shots and the strength 7. Like the sheer amount of firepower this can put in Overwatch is insane.
Yeah.
It's not the best against elves because they just say
no,
you don't get Overwatch.
Yeah.
But it is a threat into pretty much every list.
I feel like everybody who's put any real thought into how they're going to play against elves has an expectation of if Overwatch is part of the plan, that they're going to have 2 things that they want to Overwatch. So even if they don't necessarily get like the number 1 thing that they'd like, they're at least going to get the other thing. So like, it's obviously like you're I don't know that it's a thing that you can design against, but like, let's say, you've got, if I know that it's going to take 2 of these, bricks to take down, like the Tesseract Vault or the Silent King, then I'm going to make sure that like, okay, even if I can't Overwatch like the one with the Farseer and 2 Warlocks, that at least I can Overwatch the other one. And so maybe I could get it to a point where that thing can't do enough damage to get it to a point where the big one then kills and gets the overflight and all that. So But I mean, God,
No, but in that case,
you're
what you
relying
do
on a
is,
lot of luck.
yeah. But also, what you do there is knowing that your opponent has a second Overwatch. That's also good. You move everything else to bait out the Overwatch. And then if they didn't
Yeah.
overwatch everything else, they now have a lot more things to deal with than just the one other thing that you were thinking of.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's the one thing that I like, and Marcus, I mean, you actually played against this list. You said, um, and you experienced the thing which, like, obviously is one of the issues with killer Death Stars of like if they don't kill the thing that they're supposed to kill all the time, then like game over. Like it's
Yeah.
and I've been
Yeah.
there.
Like, oh, they passed all their 4-ups and you killed a quarter of the unit instead of all of it and the one next to it.
Yep.
Which
Well,
is
good game, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
How many
they
points can I scrape together for like placing later?
I mean, there is okay. Obviously, it does help to give a 4-up invul to a bunch of Windriders. I mean, it just if it's the thing about it is like I don't know.
Yeah. A
It,
4-up invul is good when you have other stats that are also good, like Terminators with a 4-up invul are
yeah,
really good because they're like T3, good toughness, and they have an armor save to ignore tough stuff.
yeah,
Or like demons where it's like, oh yeah, I'm T10 or 11 or
with
12.
a ton of wounds.
Yeah. But
I
the
mean,
bikers, it's like,
yeah, there's just a lot of. I feel like if I had to pick something, I would like. I mean, obviously, and this is just the pies in the sky kind of thing, but I feel like -1 damage would have helped more potentially than a 4-up invul. On the other hand, I don't know.
I mean,
There's a
don't
lot
some
of
of the
damage
bikes
too
already
out
have?
there.
Yeah, but
oh yeah, like they're squishier than Marines. So in a game that's built pretty much from the baseline to kill Marines,
Yeah,
it's the strat that I don't think I'm ever going to use, because the other five are genuinely amazing.
yeah,
And there's no, like, I can see myself using it, so that puts this detachment better than almost any, because there's very few detachments in the game where it's like, yes, I can see myself wanting to use all 6 stratagems. Um,
yeah. No, I,
yeah.
I mean the thing is, if you are using the invul, it's because something has gone horribly wrong.
or
Yeah.
it's a high impact, low volume shots that you just want to try to deny.
Oh, then you just put it on the Warlocks and you just pray
Yeah,
to be a Custodes player.
yeah. I mean, it's the thing is though they are mounted, and so therefore, like anything like that is, you know, so for example, like if someone's firing their fire dragons at your Windriders, then what are they doing? They're not getting their rerolls. I am curious how it's going to go. I mean, interestingly, at this GT, there's only 2 Eldar players, and both are playing Windrider Host. It's you and this other guy who has a very different list because he took 3 Wraith Lords uh, just for and no Warwalkers.
3 Wraith Lords in the Windrider Host?
Just for the generic, they can reroll
They're a
their
block of
wands
stats
and
for cheap.
Yeah,
they're a
that's
block of
true.
stats for cheap. I mean, but like I feel like if you were faced against them, I mean, they don't have an invul, so you can have them saving on 5s, with ignoring cover, and just all they have to do is fail 5 of them, which is totally reasonable. And I think you could probably split fire and kill 2 of them.
Yeah, my 2 Warwalkers throw the AP buff on both and it just go.
Yeah,
And like obviously that's a situation that's like hard to set up. I don't know how the mirror match would go, but the fact that there are 2 Wind Rider hosts and that's the only elves at the GT, I am completely expecting there's going to be the mirror match. because
Yeah.
that's just how these things go.
Hu-
It's
it-
like,
Yep.
yeah, there's two of these weird detachment. They're gonna face each other.
it's I totally agree. And I think the funniest thing about it is that maybe the best thing at killing a Windrider is a Windrider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
we saw that today.
yeah, I was against Arthur's Yanari today, and like three of my Windriders from the squad picked up pretty much his entire Windrider squad of 6 in the Warlock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also my Wind Riders, like I didn't even shoot all of them. I would shoot like maybe 3 or 4 of them, and they picked up, what was it, a 3-man or a 3-man squad? I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Windriders kill Windriders better than almost anything in the game.
Yeah. And so I am curious though, like what your plan for Azerman. Like, I guess okay, he's gonna be riding in the Falcon. So I mean, the Fire Dragons. I'm assuming you're gonna have them in reserves. What is your sort of standard deployment? I mean, if it feels like because you can do the turn one, and you're not really planning on trying to like stage in normal ways a lot. Like, what are you generally thinking of putting in reserves?
Um, Probably gonna have at least one of the big biker bricks in reserve, just so I can threaten the turn one rapid ingress and just say, "Hey, yeah, I can come into reserve turn one. Just deploy with that in mind, or do your first turn with that in mind if they're going first." And like that makes them play a lot cagier, just because the squad could appear six
Yeah.
inches away, blow up the most important unit in the army, and then run away 7 inches.
I mean,
Um,
do you even need to rapid them when you can just 6-inch them? I suppose if you wanted to move around to get a different angle.
yeah, because like the 6 inch can be screened out, but the rapid 9 inches away and then move 16 with a token,
Yeah.
less so.
Yeah. I mean,
And shining spears rapid ingressing, like they're going to start in reserve almost every game. Like rapid
yeah.
ingressing the shining spears can be
Yeah.
intimidating
That
for some armies.
that does make sense. I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, because I think in any other detachment, Shining Spear, including like Aspect Host, they're too expensive. But because of the funny stuff you can do with them, I think that actually they do kind of make sense here. And it is just one more anti-vehicle piece that is very useful.
Yeah,
I
like
think they
they
work.
can hit really hard into a lot of targets because anti-vehicle, anti-monitor 3+, strength 5 with lance, and like AP 2 or 3, flat 3.
Yeah.
Or not even have to hit, just the threat of 6 shining spears that can land anywhere is
Yeah.
enough to make people kind of second guess themselves.
Yeah. It is a shame that like you have to do engineer some pretty funny stuff to like get them re-rolling wounds in melee, because that's really where you want it. You're getting their like anti-vehicle 3-up re-rolling, like that becomes pretty solid, but it's not happening most of the time.
Yeah, it's just like, oh yes, here are the combos I can do. Beware.
Yeah, I know.
I'll pull them off once this game, but
Yeah.
it'll be cool, and something will die,
Yeah.
Well,
possibly me.
or not,
Or not.
or
Yeah,
not. It's maybe for me because I was just playing an elf mirror match, but the threat of having things being able to land in my backline on 30 millimeter bases round one had
Yeah.
me playing very cagey.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like, having played Hypercrypt for a year, I just know. And I mean, Arthur, you have played against me
Yes.
many, many times, and you learned that like obviously you don't just okay. You were playing Drukari most of the time, and so you cannot just full send. I mean that you can do the Drukari version of a full send, but if you play 2 kg against an uppy downy army, then they just do what they want. And that, I mean, I think that's like they pick you off and they take the things that they want, and they don't have to worry too much about like how am I going to hold my expansion objective? Because they're not even near my expansion objective.
Well, unfortunately, and we'll leave this conversation a bit more for whenever we do Devoted of Inead. Playing KG with Inari
Oh,
is not a bad move.
that's Inari does not play 40k. Inari plays a completely different game that somehow got allowed into this.
Like, ask Marcus. He would shoot stuff, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to move my thing 14 inches forward, and now I've taken your natural expansion because I can.
Yeah.
Oh, you killed this thing on the point. The middle's mine. I dare you to go for the middle. Because elves don't want to be in an open space middle, so Marcus never took the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this I think this is the if the Eldar Codex is the glass cannon codex, this is like the glass cannon of glass cannon's detachment.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there is, barring one strat that I don't think I'll ever use, there's no way to survive 5 intercessors shooting at you
Yeah.
unless you like take something that the detachment doesn't want. And like I'm all for that. That's the way elves should be.
Yeah.
Like hit me, I die. I hit you, you die. It's proper Warhammer. It's proper Warhammer.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, cuz I'm trying to think about it. The Shining Spears have a 5-up invul. The Falcon
hey, the
has
sergeant has a 4-up.
the Sergeant has a 4-up. That's right. He does. I forgot about
He
that.
does.
It's not
I mean,
important.
no,
He'll
'cause-
still die.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he has a 4-up.
And there's just 2 wounds, right? They're not even 3 wounds.
3 on the sergeant, but
3 on the
they're,
sergeant. Okay.
yeah, they are literally just Marines with a 5-up invul, and then next ruined and point of invul on the sergeant.
Yeah.
They are not durable, and they're on the big skimmer bases, so they're
Yeah.
a large footprint.
I know. Actually, so how is that, moving them around? I mean, because I feel like there are advantages to taking the 6 of them, but like at the same time,
Well,
that's
at least with our game, he didn't move them. He just uppy downied them.
Yeah, like a lot of it's just the uppy downing them around and like threatening to like drop them in fun places, but also the fact that they just ignore walls when they move
yeah.
is makes them a lot better than most bikes are for moving around because you can just actually stage them like a squad of infantry.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we were talking about, which is I think maybe the number one most useful part of this, and by extension Jane Czar because she has the same ability, is if you're playing just normal GW terrain where there is like a second story, people can't just 1-inch the wall block you out anymore because you can go above them, and if you're within 5 inches up and down, you are within engagement range, and so
Yeah, they're just poking you through the floorboards.
exactly, and so because you can do. Now, having a big base does make this a little bit harder than it is on Howling Banshees, but there are some terrain pieces where, it might work. But regardless, you can fly over them, and you can do a 6-inch pile-in and consolidate. I feel like they're probably the number one target for that. And that particular maneuver, which isn't useful in like many other detachments, becomes exceptionally useful here because how are you getting them all in otherwise?
Clowns that don't have a troop master love that one.
Yeah. And the Wraith Guard too, because they get strung out. But
Yeah, but like the Shining Spears love it especially because they use that to get everyone swinging, and then they kill something. And then you spend the strat, move 7, consolidate 6 onto some other point. It's like
Actually, Inari doesn't
huge
hate
amount
it.
of speed.
the thing about that particular maneuver that I really like is the timing of it, because it is like when they're activated to fight. So you can see how everything is going. You don't have to do it like at the beginning of the fight phase or like at the end of the charge phase or like with limited information. You can have full information on whether or not you're going to need this. And then it's not 6-inch pile in or 6-inch consolidate. It is both. It is great.
That's the thing with most maneuvers. I think the timing of them is perfect because it means you always have information.
Yeah.
You're not using your tokens blindly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this detachment uses every one of the maneuvers, and it loves all of them.
Yeah, that's actually another interesting point about it that I hadn't really thought about because, like, I mean, there's a few that everybody loves. Everybody loves +2 to move, right? I mean, it's just the best one just because it can be used multiple times and everything appreciates +2 to move. And everything likes turn off Overwatch because they're elves. But a
For
lot of
elves, we don't want to get shot.
exactly, but like, a lot of things, they don't. They're not going to survive getting shot at, and so they're not going to reactive move after getting shot at. Whereas, if you got enough bikes and you're just getting shot at by pistols, like, you lose a couple dudes maybe, but the unit is still worth, saving potentially, so you move them.
Well, the thing that I like about the moving after getting shot isn't actually using it, but the fact that it makes my opponent think
Sure.
and forces them to make bad moves on the shot. Because it
Or,
means, oh no, if I don't kill this,
yeah, or they don't
so
shoot.
yeah,
I think
or
that's,
they overkill.
yeah, I think that's the number one outcome on the reactive move is every time I remind somebody, they're like, oh, right, I'm just not going to shoot. And then that's cool because, like, they lose an activation and that, can be very helpful. I,
It's great.
so, Marcus, has it come up, though, they fall back and you reactive move? That would be the one. That would be the one that I would wonder about.
Uh, I think it's come up like once in my practice games. It's the least important one for every detachment because elves they don't survive melee.
No.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
It only
suppose,
it's
kind of
only really
allergic
good
to
if
that.
you bait like transports that don't punch well.
yeah, but why are they needing to fall back anyway?
Maybe because you lock them out into a point where they can't get good shots on anything else.
Yeah.
Like
It's niche.
there's reasons. It's super niche, absolutely niche, but I can see ways of doing it.
Yeah, I'm barring something like I think the only detachment that actually can kind of make use of it, or well, maybe not detachment, but the unit that might make use of it is something like a well, okay, I guess it would have to be a detachment because in Spirit Conclave, the fact that the Wraith blades and knights get access to that, there are times where
Yeah.
people want to fall back from them, and then maybe you want to move for some reason.
No.
But
I think that's
Yeah.
probably the one that would use it the most, just because they're chunky enough.
and then even then, I mean, I haven't. But we're starting to talk about things other than Windrider. I mean, we can have a follow up after the GT and see how it goes. I'd be very curious.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what happens with it because watching it in play was impressive. It was oppressive, and I can't imagine how an army that doesn't have one, the speed that I have, two, the screening
Okay.
capacity that I had. I don't see how they deal with it. Like for example, Death Guard,
No.
that they move slow. Like sure, you're creating your auras, but he's going to be jumping around, and he'll be killing the things on the point. He'll be killing stuff before you can even react.
I just
Golf
hope they
World
don't have
Eaters.
indirect.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm running Wave Serpents because like
I can't fit
you
a
run into
bike in a
guard.
transport, unfortunately,
I
unless
think
you're
that
in a Thunderhawk.
I
I
know.
think that's probably the biggest downfall of this list of the Windrider is indirect will just be a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, because just a couple mortars, are gonna chip away.
But then you can put stuff in reserves and you can come in turn one and kill the mortars.
Yeah. I mean, if they
You
leave
can
them
come in
somewhere.
turn one. You can't necessarily kill the mortars
You
because
could
those
try.
will be hiding.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But
you could
like,
6 inch into the backfield turn one, can't you?
if
Dude,
it's
it's
guard,
guard. It's
no.
guard.
Oh, true, it's guard.
They pay
Sorry,
100 points and screen out half the table.
yeah.
that's true. My bad. It is guard. But like into melee armies, Wind Riders, I just think oppressive. Like World Eaters, probably Black Templars. You're gonna have to play Clint, man, Because I don't see how Clint would beat this.
I don't know.
It's-
He's
Just the feel no pains.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is
damage.
Clint.
Damage 2 going into 2 wound bodies with the feel no pain like becomes very inefficient.
No, I don't mean so much the damage output. I mean the speed output to just play the secondary game.
But it is the damage output. This is the damage detachment. Every elf detachment has speed. I mean, even the friggin' like wraiths have speed. But like,
Yeah, that's true.
if you don't send your bikes at the Primaris Crusaders and wipe them, if there are 6 dudes left, and you're within move and charge range, yeah, you're in trouble. I guess you get an Overwatch off, which is very nice.
You know,
Yeah, that
The
would
other-
be funny. But
the other thing,
yeah.
I'm not sure, Marcus. What do you think? How would this do into something that's just big, like big bugs?
It hasn't gone well in my practice game, but I think I that was one of my first games with it, and like an army this fragile is very easy to mess up, and I have messed it up every single game so far. I'm gonna try and get as many practice games as I can while still painting because I still have over half of it left to paint. But like every game I play, I feel like I'm getting a lot better with it, and I'm learning how to use the tools better.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't
And-
mess up in our game. The dice just went sour.
I made some mistakes. I should have been more careful with some of the screening.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, you did what you had to do. I don't think you made any major hiccups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no,
I think the number one thing with any army that is relying on, and this applies, I guess, then by extension to pretty much like all Eldar, glass cannon, you want to know what you want to kill. So you have the challenge of it is actually being familiar with like every faction and every unit, and knowing like, because you're not ever going to be able to just this is not the addition of table, like even the most ridiculous damage, you're not tabling your opponent round turn 2. It just doesn't happen anymore.
no
And
alpha strikes.
no. And so you have to know, okay, what is the target priority, and that can take a long time to nail down. And I mean, even when you think you know it, you can mess it up. So, I mean, see me round 5 of LVO, where I decided to kill scouts instead of eradicators because I was like, I'm gonna make sure that he doesn't score secondary, and he didn't score secondary, but then he just killed me. So. Anyway, well,
yeah. After a few games, everyone starts being a bit burnt out, which that is a worry with this list because like going to the GT, like third game of the day, I'm probably gonna be forgetting how to talk, let alone play.
yeah.
The brain power you're going to need for this one's going to be rough going into match 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not Inari levels of like you have to, be galaxy braining, but,
The Inari thing is, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Yeah, and we will have that conversation. In fact, we are planning on talking about all the detachments at some point. Maybe not Armored Host. We'll see about it if Marcus really does.
Real detachments.
Yeah.
Real detachments. Come
I
on.
couldn't find a good list for that. I found a way to make the opponent as miserable as you are, but
Yeah, the one you told me, right?
yeah, but it would be better in other detachments.
Like, there is one way to make it not be terrible, but even then, it is just like, it's a meme list that you run because you want to make your opponent be miserable.
Well, then you know what? We'll make an episode about it just because it'll be funny to have a meme list.
I mean,
Yeah,
they'll
the best
probably
way to
still
play
win,
an armored war host is to scribble out the armored.
basically,
Very
yeah.
well. All right.
Good fun.
Well, thanks, guys, and we'll be seeing you soon, and we'll pump out more of these.
See ya.
Awesome. See ya.